On average, we spend about 1/3 to 1/2 of our lives at work. Yep, you heard right. 1/3 to 1/2 of our lives. And one of the common things at work is the reality of change and rapid change almost daily. And so all of that is an ingredient for lots of different emotions coming up hour after hour, day after day. And so the question becomes, how can we better regulate our emotions at work? Stay tuned, because we're going to explore emotional regulation. You know, with all these different emotions that we go through at work, from anger to sadness to joy to feelings of success and accomplishment to feelings of depression and despair, the question is, how can I manage all those emotions that happen? Today, I want to explore 4 different ways, 4 practical ways that you can better regulate your emotions. The first area is your physical needs. Yeah, I'm afraid our physical needs are directly tied in to our emotional needs. So let's explore 4 areas of physical needs. Number 1, are you getting enough sleep? Because if you're answering yes to you're getting enough sleep, then you are among the minority. Because research shows that about 55% of Americans are not getting enough sleep. And it's costing approximately $411 billion of impacted performance in the workplace. You know it yourself, when you're feeling tired, are you performing at your best? When you're feeling tired, is someone's behavior more likely to annoy you? Of course it is. And so the first area is sleep. The second is diet and food. Are you eating? Are you eating well? Are you eating enough? You know, I have a number of clients in coaching, and when we talk about things that they're eating, sometimes they'll say, well, I just skip lunch. I don't have time. I'm so rushed. I'm so under pressure. Well, the problem is skipping lunch may, in fact, add an hour to your day, but I would conjecture that really you're losing your performance in the afternoon. You're more liable to be impacted by the different emotions, and you're more likely to act in a more reactive way rather than a more proactive way. The third area is exercise. You know, exercise is a great way of helping us modulate our emotions. And so therefore, it can be just taking a break for a little run, or it could just be for a walk to get outside. All of that helps us have a different perspective, and that physicality of exercise helps us modulate our emotions. And then finally, take breaks. I've already mentioned about how some people skip lunch. Never skip lunch, but also take little breaks between activities. I'm not talking about 15, 20, 30 minutes, little breaks that get you up from your place. You can stretch a little, go for a little walk, get away for 5 minutes, and then come back. This is the first area, our physical needs. If we can examine how much sleep we're getting, what food we're eating, and are we getting food at the right amount of time? So these are the physical needs, these 4 areas. Are we getting enough sleep? Are we taking enough breaks? Are we eating at the right times? And are we getting enough exercise? If we address these physical needs, you'll be surprised at how better able you are to modulate your emotion. The second area is increasing areas of positivity and gratitude in our day. People who are more positive, who are more optimistic, people who show higher levels of gratitude are better able to regulate their emotions. And so therefore I invite you to consider what practices might you be able to place in your workday that will increase some of that gratitude. I often invite clients who I coach to keep a little gratitude journal, to be able to write in that journal once a day something for which they are incredibly grateful. And when you find yourself in a certain emotion, a mood that's getting you down, can you just stop for a few moments and think about something that is going right instead of wrong? Something that you're grateful for. This refocusing is a great way of modulating our emotions. The third area is increasing our self-awareness. You see, our emotions just don't come out of anywhere. They're normally triggered by a certain event, And before we become conscious that we're having that emotion, we're normally able to feel it in the body. And therefore, when it comes to self-awareness, these are two areas that can be incredibly helpful to help us modulate those emotions. First of all, are we able to feel signs in our body that we are in an emotional state or an emotion has been triggered? Can we feel our heart beating faster? Can we feel areas of tension in our shoulders, in our fists, in our jaw? Can we feel ourselves getting hotter or colder? Can we feel the blood being drained or the blood going to the outer organs? All of these are physical signs which help us identify that we've been triggered in the moment. And then the second thing is to become more aware of those triggers. So what is it that's triggering us? Is it someone speaking over us? Is it the news that we received recently that there may be upcoming budget talks? Is it the mood of the boss who's come in and he's kind of grumpy and angry? All of these are potential triggers that can set off an emotion within us. And the more self-aware we are, both physically and also knowledge of those triggers, the better we're able to introduce choice. Because that's exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to move from being reactive, so that something happens and we react, to going into a situation where something happens, we're able to catch it, and then we get choice. This is how I choose to respond, rather than responding and then looking back with regret and saying, I wish I'd responded differently. All of that begins with greater self-awareness. And fourth and finally, let's talk a little bit about emotional reappraisal. This is a wonderful way of helping us regulate our emotions. Now, very often we have learned that some emotions are good and some emotions are bad. And unfortunately, that language is not helpful. I believe that every emotion has a purpose. They are neither good nor bad. Rather, they are reactions which give us signals to how we're feeling in the moment. So very often, anger is put out there as, well, if you're angry, it's bad. And anger is neither good nor bad. Anger is. What's important is to ask ourselves why we're angry in the moment, and more often than not, the trigger for anger is an injustice, that someone's taken away a goal that we were trying to achieve, or we feel that we are hurt or have suffered an injustice, or see someone else suffering an injustice. That's where anger comes from. The methodology I have is 3 simple letters, R, A, R. And the 3 of those letters will help us regulate our emotions. So what are those letters? The first is recognize. So recognize that you've been triggered. Recognize that there is an emotion coming up. And part of that emotion is either recognizing the trigger because you've done some reflection work and knowing what exactly has happened. Recognize is about recognizing the physical symptoms. Oh, I feel that my hands are clenched. I feel hot. I feel my heart is beating. Someone's triggered me. I think I feel angry. So recognize. The second letter, A, is accept. So we do no good by suppressing our emotions. It's no good saying, I shouldn't feel like that, and so therefore I won't express it. The problem is if we keep suppressing our emotions, they kind of leak out, and sometimes they leak out inappropriately. It's kind of like that proverbial having an argument over the way the toothpaste is pressed. It's nothing to do with the toothpaste, but it's this building up of conversations that have never been had and emotions that have been suppressed. So recognized, accept, and then the third is reframe. Is there another way that I can think about the experience that has just happened? Let me give you an example of this. I live in Washington, D.C. We always vie with Los Angeles for the worst traffic in the country. And so invariably, every day I have opportunities to meet people whose driving skills, well, let's just say it, aren't the best. People sometimes are in a rush, and people sometimes just feel the urge to cut right in front of me. And that's a trigger, because I automatically get angry. So when that happens, I've learned that one of the signs for that coming on is that my hands on the steering wheel start clenching like this. I can feel the tension in my body, and very often it doesn't take much to get me shouting and screaming at them. And so a way of doing that would be to, first of all, recognize that I'm being triggered, to accept the fact that, yes, I have a right to be angry in the moment, but then to go into reframe. So instead of rushing to judgment about the rudeness of this person, I can think, and I try and think of some other things that could have happened. Maybe their pregnant wife is in the car and they've been in labor and they're going to the hospital. Maybe they're late for a really important meeting or an interview. Maybe they just didn't see me, that they're so preoccupied. And when I start in that reframing, what I find is that some of that intense anger that I felt begins to dissipate. Recognize, accept, reframe. A wonderful way to regulate the emotions that we have. You know, sometimes when we learn new skills, very often we're looking for opportunities to practice them. Well, the wonderful thing about emotional regulation is we will have numerous opportunities, day in, day out, to practice these skills. A sign of a true leader is someone who's able to be at peace and at home with their emotions, to recognize those emotions and manage those emotions. It's the person who's able, rather than being reactive, to actively choose how they are responding in the moment. So I challenge you to practice these 4 different areas. And I promise you that if you put them into use, you'll be better able to regulate your emotions. You'll be more productive in the day, and you'll feel yourself, instead of being reactive, rather choosing how you want to respond. And if you've enjoyed this video today, remember to subscribe. Every week I put out some wonderful content around these different areas of emotional intention. And if anger is something that you're struggling with, you may want to watch the following video, which talks about how to manage anger in the moment.